On Story is brought to you in part by the Alice Kleberg Reynolds Foundation, a Texas family providing innovative funding since 1979. Funding also provided by John Paul and Eloise DeJoria. On Story, presented by Austin Film Festival. A look inside the creative process from today's leading writers and directors.
It was a perfect synchronicity of all these talents. And Jodie, I read an article recently where Jodie said, I guess because it was the 20th anniversary of the film or something, she said, none of us were ever that good before, and we've never been that good again. Yes, I owe this one to my wife. The only reason I got this job was because of her. She was an art gallery director in Manhattan, and one of her clients and a friend of her, the bosses of her gallery, was Thomas Harris. And so I met him socially through my wife and her employers. We had dinner a couple of times. I told him I was a big fan of, he'd then written 2 books, Black Sunday and Red Dragon. And I said, oh, they're wonderful, and he said, oh, I have a new one coming out. Maybe you'll be interested in that. I said, oh, sure. And a few weeks later, he sent me a manuscript copy of The Silence of the Lambs, all because of my wife's, relationship with him. And I read it, and I thought, oh my God, he's topped himself again. Red Dragon was better than Black Sunday, and Black Sunday was already good, and He's done it again. He's topped himself. And when I read this book, I thought, this could be the kind of movie that only comes along about once every 10 years. This is the kind of book, it's like The Godfather. It's going to have an enormous popular appeal, but it's so smart and so sophisticated in its technique and storytelling that it's also going to appeal to critics. The process is always roughly the same, which is the first thing is to try to figure out whose story it is. And that may seem very obvious, but it's not always so obvious. In Silence of the Lambs, for instance, the novelist can go inside the head of multiple characters. And sometimes he's in Hannibal Lecter's head, and sometimes he's in Crawford's head, the FBI boss. Sometimes he's in Jane Gumm's head. And he can present these points of view to show the story from their point of view. And you have to make a decision, because you can't do all of that in a movie. You've got to say, no, I think it's her story. I think it's Clarice Starling's story. So that's going to be my main principle for editing this. You have to try to see the world from their point of view and empathize with that character absolutely, as if you had created that character originally. And that begins to guide you through an adaptation process. And then as things begin to fall away, because they're not important enough to the character that you're following, even though they might have been wonderful in the book, wonderful stuff. In the book, Crawford, the FBI boss, there's a whole subplot about his wife who's dying off screen. And he has to deal with all the pressures of this massive investigation that he's in charge of, and he has to deal with the Clarice character and how he's mentoring her. And all this while, his wife is dying, and all he wants to be is by her side. And that's a very rich part of the book that I tried to hang on to in the first couple of drafts of the screenplay. But you just realize I have to let that go. I can't do everything that the book can do. It's a constant mind game that you're playing with the audience, a game of trying to anticipate their expectations and surprise them. Jonathan Demme says it's better to confuse the audience for a couple of minutes than to bore them for 10 seconds. You always want to be just a little ahead of them, but not so far ahead of them that it seems snarky.
Right.
You know, a perfect example might be when we're way, 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 way ahead of Clarice when she finally gets into Gum's house at the end of the movie. We know that she's now in terrible danger and she doesn't know it. That's building suspense. Then she sees the moth and realizes where she is. But Gum doesn't know it yet. So you've just ratcheted the suspense up like 10 times.
Did you take over this place after Mrs. Lippman died, is that right?
Yeah, I bought this house 2 years ago.
Did she leave any records, any business records, tax forms, lists of employees?
No, nothing like that at all. Say, has the FBI learned something? The police around here don't seem to have the first clue. I mean, have you got like a description, fingerprints, anything like that?
No. No, I don't.
You're constantly trying to put yourself in the shoes of the audience, as well as the characters. But it's hard. We're so inundated with story now. Films, television, the internet, DVDs, you know, we're completely inundated with stories, and the audience is seeing these things from the earliest age, and the audience becomes incredibly sophisticated in story terms. They've seen every plot in the world, they've heard every kind of scene, they know when a character's lying, they know when something's about to jump out of the closet. Yeah. The audience is so savvy that it's very hard to be ahead of them. The only thing that was in the script that he didn't shoot, we also discussed, which was flashbacks at the end. When they have the final scene between Lecter and Clarice, and she's telling the story of the night the lambs were slaughtered when she was a little girl. In the original script, there were flashbacks to what she's describing. You see her as a little girl, you see her creeping through the dark towards the barn, the door is open, a light is coming out, something's happening inside. She's, you know, it's back and forth between the flashbacks and the actors in Memphis in the present day. That's how it was written. And Jonathan called me one day and said, I'm going to send you the dailies of this scene. Take a look at them, and then we better talk. So I looked at these unbelievable performances, take after take after take. They looked as good as what you saw in the final movie, just with subtle differences. And I called him up and said, these performances are unbelievable. He said, if I cut away from these performances to flashbacks, I'll be thrown out of the Directors Guild. He said, Jodie Foster may win an Academy Award because of that scene. And this was like 2.5 years before that turned out to happen.
I went downstairs, outside. I crept up into the barn. I was so scared to look inside, but I had to.
What did you see, Clarice? What did you see?
Lambs. They were screaming.
We ran into right away a problem on the set. The first day I was there, they were getting ready to shoot the first scene between Lecter and Clarice, and they had built that set, Lecter's prison cell. And I had left the description of the set the way it was in the book, which was that there's 3 layers of, you know, there's like bars and rope netting and mesh, and, you know. And Jonathan said, we can't shoot that way. We can't, it's too much going on in front of their faces. We can't see their eyes. We can't shoot that way. We're gonna have to do something radically different and in a hurry. So Christy Zia, who was the brilliant production designer of that movie, genius, she said, we'll do plexiglass. All the other cells on that floor will have bars, but his, because he's a special case, he'll have plexiglass. You can't even get as close as you could with bars. So they whipped that together, you know, in like overnight or something. And then the actors came to rehearse, and Jonathan said they can't hear each other. I mean, this is the way filmmaking starts out being some theoretical thing by somebody at a laptop, right, and ends up being solving real problems in real time with the clock ticking, money flying out the window, and everybody standing around looking at you like, now what? you know, it's like, okay, now we've got it to look right. We can shoot through these and see them. Even they discovered the bonus. We can see her reflection while we're looking at him. I mean, they immediately could see the possibilities dramatically. And so Christy Zia said, okay, air vents. There'll be air holes, and that way they'll be able to hear each other.
And smell each other.
And smell each other, you know. So it's just practical problem solving when you're terrified and the clock is ticking, is how a lot of movie decisions get made. I mean, people think of that as a horribly violent movie, and it does have some horrible moments, but there's almost no literal on-screen violence in that movie. It's always happening just out of your eyesight. When the girl is kidnapped, she's hit over the head, you don't see that.
Right.
When the prison warden is trying to impress Jodie Foster with how horrible Hannibal Lecter, and he shows her the photograph of a nurse that he attacked, you don't see the photograph. You only see her reaction. That was in the script, and that's Jonathan's sensibility as well.
I'm going to show you why we insist on such precautions. On the afternoon of July 8, 1981, he complained of chest pains and was taken to the dispensary. His mouthpiece and restraints were removed for an EKG. When the nurse leaned over him, he did this to her. The doctors managed to reset her jaw, more or less, save one of her eyes. His pulse never got above 85, even when he ate her tongue.
The audience's imagination will work harder for you than your own. Right. Let them imagine it, don't show them. And even the most violent moment in the movie, when Lecter is hitting the guard, you don't see the blows land.
Right.
When they find the head in the jar, she finds the head in the jar in that car. I said, Jonathan, what if the camera rushed up suddenly closer to it? Wouldn't that make it scarier? He said, 10. He wanted to say, don't give up your day job. He said, we have enough going on in this movie that's scary. A head in a jar is nothing.
Yeah.
Given the subject matter of this ghoulish movie, in a weird sort of way, it was incredibly important that it be tasteful, that it not be exploitative.
Yeah.
That the violence in this movie is awful, because violence is awful. I was very conscious of the fact that Thomas Harris has set up this equilibrium, this triangle. You have the dead father, who can never be replaced, although she keeps wanting to replace him. She keeps wanting to eliminate the kind of evil from the world that took him away from her.
Right.
He's gone, except in flashback from her life. You have the evil father, Lecter, and you have the good father, Crawford. And they each have something to offer her. And yet she has to be stronger than either one of them. She can't just be their little girl.
Right.
And achieve this mission that she's on. She has to grow beyond any of the fathers. Yeah. Jodie who was a literature major at Yale, is far more articulate about this than me or anybody else. She goes into this whole long rap about like the dark forest of childhood fables, and you've got to enter that forest and fight those demons. And she talks about the Brothers Grimm, and you know. Well, I've always drawn to stories with strong women characters. I don't really know why. And maybe it's because society puts up more difficulties for women to overcome. And when you see your hero, your heroine having to overcome, the more difficulties they have to overcome, the more interesting they tend to be.
No less a guru than screenwriting guru than Sid Field, has a book that includes your screenplay, or includes Silence of the Lambs as one of these 4 new American classic screenplays, and talks about the 3 fathers. And I'd almost sort of discounted the ghost father, her real father. I think of her as an orphan with these 2 new substitute fathers, but that ghost father is really essential to that part of the story.
I was always just terribly moved by that character's courage. I think it's the most moving quality for any hero. I mean, you are on some level doing a fairy tale, you're doing a fable in modern clothing. And you've got a big bad wolf, and you've got Little Red Riding Hood, and it touches all of that in us. We all grow up on those stories. Originally, I had written the ending differently. Originally, it was always the phone call, that Clarice gets a phone call, at the graduation ceremony. I think in the book maybe she gets a letter from Lecter, but of course that's not going to play in a movie. So I made it a phone call. But originally, the way it was written, it turns out that he's calling from Dr. Chilton's house, which is on Chesapeake Bay somewhere, and the camera travels over like dead security guards and finally finds Chilton, tied up at his desk chair, and Lecter is talking on the phone. And he hangs up with her and says, "Well, Dr. Chilton, shall we begin?" And that was the original ending. Right. And Jonathan said, "Ooh, ick, ooh." He said, we may hate Chilton, but he's still a human being, and you don't want to see him sort of bound and gagged and helpless. And couldn't we come up with some other way that at least he would have some like tiny bit of a fighting chance to get away? And I said, well, what if he's, ever since Lecter's escape, Chilton's been on the run and he's in the tropics somewhere or something? And Jonathan said, ooh, we could all go to the tropics for a week. We could all go to the Caribbean for the last week of the shooting of this with a paid vacation. Yeah. Brilliant idea, he said. Yeah. Let's do it that way.
Where are you, Dr. Lecter?
I have no plans to call on you, Clarice. The world's more interesting with you in it. So you take care now to extend me the same courtesy.
You know I can't make that promise.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye.
Dr. Lecter. Dr. Lecter. Dr. Lecter. Dr. Lecter.
So my name is Thomas Ward, and I'm the writer and director of the short film In the Middle. I had wrapped working on a previous short film with some friends of mine in Nashville, Tennessee, and we were having lunch celebrating the end of our shooting, and we were just acting crazy. We were exhausted, and we started playing the silly, desert island game. Like if you could only have 5, CDs, what would they be? Blah blah blah, And we were just acting obnoxious and silly, and my friend leaned over to me and said, "This would be funny," and just kind of had an aha moment in Arkansas about what the hook could be. It was a real step in my creative career, in my artistic process as far as making a transition from playwriting to screenwriting. And so I think I made a leap from coming from a theater background to working on film. I'm Thomas Ward, and this is my film, In the Middle.
Hey!
I'm coming.
Open your eyes, we're in a better place. Put a smile on your crooked face. How can there be sorrow when there's no tomorrow? We're gonna be together.
Oh, wow, look at this place. No, it's like a museum or something. It's neat. It is neat. Look at her costume. It is so cool. It's like from the 50s or something. Hi.
Hi. Are you open? Yes. Yes, of course we are.
What's your name?
Amanda?
I'm Cindy, this is Sadie, and this is Tracy. We're on our way to the beach.
Spring break.
Yeah, we're in college.
I think college is bullshit, though. I would love to work in a place like
We
this.
hate chains.
Totally.
Sadie protested one time at a Walmart.
I did.
So did you, like, grow up here?
Did you, like, marry your high school boyfriend and have tons of babies?
What can I get you to drink?
What kind of coffee do you have?
It's brown and it's hot.
I'll have water.
Hello? Some restaurant in the middle of nowhere? I don't know. No?
Our
No.
parents are so worried about us.
Shut up.
They think we're gonna get, like, raped or something.
Kill me if I ever look like that.
Open your eyes and we're in a better place. Put a smile on your crooked little face. Might as well, cause we're never going back.
What's your desert island movie?
Moulin Rouge.
Harry Potter.
What are you, like 12?
Don't judge me.
Hey, what's yours?
Yeah.
Your desert island movie. You're trapped on a desert island and you can only have one movie to watch forever.
Yeah, I know the game.
Do you, like, get movies here?
Out of Africa.
I love Elizabeth Taylor. Yeah, good one.
What can I get you to eat?
We'll have the special.
Okay.
So, who's your desert island guy?
And it can't be Todd.
Well, why not?
Because he's your boyfriend.
Oh, does it have to be like a celebrity or something?
Yeah,
Well, alive or dead?
either.
Oh, who's yours?
Brad Pitt.
James Dean.
Mine's Jesus.
What?
Ew, Sadie.
What?
Oh my gosh, that's
It
so
can't be
nasty.
Todd.
But are we talking like survival, like you want to get off the island, or are we talking about just like potty laying on the beach?
I think I said either way.
Ew. Sadie. Oh my gosh, that is not an answer.
Whatever.
Okay, new game.
Yay.
But it's not desert island, it's hell. Well, it's not hell, it's like one of the circles of hell, the one where you're just like waiting. So it's not like heaven or hell.
Perjury.
What?
That's what it's called, I think. Perjury.
It's purgatory, Einstein.
Anyway, so you're in purgatory.
Okay, let's just call it limbo.
All right, whatever. You're in limbo, and you have to be doing the same thing over and over again. And the same song is playing.
I'd be packing for a trip
Ew.
and listening to Rainy Days and Mondays.
Oh wait, who sings that?
I have no idea, but my mom cries to it every time she hears it.
The Carpenters.
What?
The Carpenters. That's who sings Rainy Days and Mondays.
All right.
What about you?
And this is a different game. This isn't Desert Island.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not Desert Island. It's Limbo.
Who says Limbo isn't a desert island?
Right, but you're not on a desert island.
I understand that, but you're just changing the setting. It's still the same basic question. What if you could only have one of something? What if you could only do one thing for eternity? Good or bad, favorite or least favorite? It doesn't matter where it's happening. If it's hell or a desert island or a Walmart, don't you see that, you stupid little girls? How can you not understand what I'm saying?
Why are you yelling at us?
She's jealous.
Open your eyes and we're in a better place. Put a smile on your crooked little face. I might as well, cause we're
Mike.
Oh, wow, look at this place. I know, it's like a museum or something.
Neat.
It is neat.
Look at her costume.
Forever.